And now, Lifestyles Unlimited presents the Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Over the next hour, we unfold your map to financial freedom. You'll learn how to retire through investing in single family and multifamily real estate. You'll learn how to create cash flow and build wealth so you can have the time and money to live the lifestyle you want.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Andy Webb with Lifestyles Unlimited, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. And if you recall, if you tuned in last week, you might have caught me use the word a couple times, the word discipline. So that's what I want to do. On today's show, let's talk discipline. Talking about the discipline, or maybe better put the self-discipline, I guess, that you need. Some ideas on developing and practicing the discipline or the self-discipline that you need to become a successful real estate investor. And in fact, as I was preparing the show over the past week, I happened to see a comment from a fellow Lifestyles Unlimited member on social media to this very topic. I'm going to paraphrase here, but essentially he said that he is practicing the discipline to keep some powder dry, right? This is his situation, to keep some powder dry, to keep some capital available for when those lead investors, those syndicators that he's been wanting to invest with, bring out their next investment opportunity. That's just one example of why you need discipline, why you need to practice. I like that he used that word, practice self-discipline. Why else might you need that in the real estate space? Well, we talked last week about keeping up with the accounting. It is tax time. Very important to keeping good records is discipline, self-discipline, or more broadly, just to keep your operations running smoothly, doing the things that you have in your, if you have a procedures and policies and procedures manual or whatever, that you're following those, being disciplined. It also means sticking to your investing criteria and being patient. I will tell you, it is very easy to be distracted, and it's very easy to want to rush. Let's go, and rush at the wrong time sometimes. And you need discipline to stay on the road. We talk about the road to financial freedom. We have the path. We have the map for you at Lifestyles Unlimited, but sometimes you do have to practice discipline to stay on that road, and very important, to avoid shiny object syndrome. You hear me on this program and my fellow hosts talking about residential real estate investing, single family rental properties and apartments. That is it. But I still get those questions. I still get those emails. Hey, what do you think about retail? Investing in retail. What about Airbnb? Storage units? There are a lot of distractions out there, and you need the discipline to stay on that path. Stay on that path that you're on and be proactive rather than reactive. Like my cohort on social media said, not to put all your money into every possible multifamily deal if you're waiting for that one. If you're looking for that particular set of investing criteria, or if your goal is to be a syndicator or an independent rental owner, you got to keep that powder dry for that as well. So can you practice discipline? Yeah, you absolutely can. And in fact, it's a skill. It really is a skill. And as a skill, it's something that you can develop. And this is something that I have to work on as well. When I think about discipline and the homeschool, it's not discipline in the sense of, hey, keeping that guy in line, rather my own self-discipline and reacting well when things don't go the way that I think they need to go. It's very important to me as well. So this is something I have been focused on lately. And I had an article I came across a while ago. This was published in 2020 on Forbes. It's titled 9 Powerful Ways to Cultivate Extreme Self-Discipline. Again, cultivate, practice self-discipline. And this was published, a la Al Gordon, our ex-military radio host. This was published by a former SEAL, a Navy SEAL. So somebody that knows discipline. Okay, his name is Brent Gleason, by the way, Gleeson. A good article, but it's somebody that I would say knows about self-discipline. And it's nine items. We're just going to gloss through these fairly quickly. You may do some of these already. You may do all of these already. You may do none of these at all. What I want you to do is just take these as ideas to help you on your path as a real estate investor, and to make sure you stay on that path. And again, good ideas here. I primarily want to use this. I want to use his framework. And as we go through this, I'll translate these for you into the real estate investor space. In fact, let's do this. Let's speak to that person, because as a real estate investor, I just mentioned we focus on single family as well as apartments at Lifestyles Unlimited. Let's speak specifically to that person that is trying to get started in the single family rental business and just buy that first rental house. I know there are a lot of you out there that have that as a goal. So let's focus on that first. And he frames these as steps 1 through 9, as though they build upon each other. Again, you may do some of these already. You may know some of these already, but we're going to work through these. And number 1, and I think this is extremely important, especially as you build your business. Number 1, know your strengths and weaknesses. Know thyself. He states it here, I'm going to quote, "Self-awareness is a powerful tool for comfort zone expansion," for getting out of your comfort zone. That's what we do. When you go from working at the desk job, sitting in the cubicle, suddenly you're a rental property owner. You've just moved outside of your comfort zone. You need to be educated on the processes and the things that go into buying a single family rental property or apartments. We do both at Lifestyles Unlimited. And think about processes and putting those into place as you grow, as you build your business, and have those processes play to your strengths and your weaknesses. Let the processes then guide you so that you're not caught out by one of those weaknesses. And if there is a blind spot that you have, it's important that you delegate that piece. Delegate that to somebody that's going to do it better, faster, at higher quality. We talk about hiring the renovation workout all the time. Don't be spending your time on your weekends painting the walls. You can have somebody do that far faster and for far better quality. Your weakness in this sense is that you have a day job and it's occupying you from Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday. You don't really have the time in this case. So play to your strengths. You have an income that you can use to pay somebody that does have the time. Another example is if you don't like doing analysis, a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm not good with numbers." Well, delegate that analysis. Find a good realtor, somebody that is in that market and somebody that is familiar with investment property that can sit down and figure out if that is a good investment. The Lifestyles Unlimited Realty team, I get emails from them all the time where they've done this legwork up front. I can see what the expected cash flow is. I can see what the expected cash-on-cash return, cash out of pocket, capital gain, return on capital gain, all the things that I look at when I'm making a decision on a single-family rental house. So I've effectively delegated that out to the realty team. I was just looking in my inbox. I got a lot of emails just from yesterday from the sundry markets out there, Houston, San Antonio, the DFW area, outside of the state, Atlanta. We're in a lot of different markets now. So delegate that if you don't like doing the analysis. The application screening process comes to mind because I personally find that to be one of my weaknesses. I know that I do not focus in as much on the detail as I should, whereas my wife is very good at that. So we've figured out over the years that that's better placed with her. That is one of her strengths. So when we get an application, I do the marketing perhaps. Maybe I've spoken with those applicants. I've gotten to know them. I hand it all off to her because she has the strengths. Similar vein, know thyself, like we said. If you try operating, maybe you go down this path and you try operating a single family rental yourself and you find you don't like it. You don't like doing it. That is not your strength. What do? Well, you hire out a property management company, or shift away from single family rentals altogether and invest passively in apartments. You don't have to deal with any of the operations in that sense. So that's number 1, know your strengths and weaknesses and start to build toward those. Number 2, remove temptations. I would put this in the category of weakness. And to take a non-real estate example, I have a tremendous sweet tooth. If you're at the Wealth and Passive Income Expo, you'll probably see me constantly digging in the candy bowls in the expert hall. I got a big sweet tooth, and my approach to preventing the bottomless pit is that I just don't buy this stuff when I'm at the store. I keep it out of the house. I remove the temptation. And you need to do the same. Remove temptations and minimize distractions. If you are very easily led astray, I mentioned shiny object syndrome, you have to watch out for that. And be aware, be self-aware Think about that when you go to some real estate investor event. If you come to Lifestyles Unlimited, if you come to the free workshop, if you come to the case study, if you go to the expo, we're going to be talking about investing in single-family rental properties and apartments, and that is it. But if you go to other events, you're going to hear about other things, Airbnb, storage facilities, flipping land, things that are going to bring you that shiny object distraction. Just be aware. I'm not telling you don't go to these things. I go to them all the time. It's great to network and meet other vendors, other contractors, etc. But stay focused. Just be aware and be aware of yourself. And more specifically for the new investor targeting that very first rental property, this is not so much about removing temptation, but avoiding temptation. Just be careful as you go down that path to watch your consumer spending. You're building your team. You should have spoken with a lender, find out what your financial firepower is, and they're going to base that on your current credit reports, bank statements, etc. Well, going forward, what do you need to do? Avoid large purchases on credit. That affects your DTI, your debt to income ratio. That affects your cash in the bank. That affects that credit report. So be very careful. Avoid that temptation. I've seen it happen. Under contract on a house. Ooh, I need a new car. Bam. Whole house gets scuttled as a result. And think about as well, you are the average, we talk about this on the program in terms of mindset, you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. That may be a source of temptation. If you are surrounded by the wrong people, maybe take a step away, remove that temptation, that distraction, and get around a new crowd while you build this business, while you put your processes into place. So remove temptations. Number 3, very, very important, set clear goals and have an execution plan. We've talked about this a lot as well on past shows. If you go to our website, lifestylesunlimited.com, you can find those shows there. But having a goal essentially equates to a roadmap. That becomes your lodestone that gives you the direction that you need to help you down that path and hopefully give you that focus. But it doesn't just come down to having a goal. You could have a goal. You could have multiple goals. You need to know how you plan to execute that goal as well. And I think I want to point you to a very good show my fellow host Mike Harrison did very recently. I don't have the date for you right now, but if you go to lifestylesunlimited.com, click on the radio tab, and you can search by Mike Harrison. He talked about how he sets goals with his wife. Some very, very, very good ideas in there. So give that show a listen. And when it comes to goals, and this is in the article here as well from the SEAL, Mr. Gleason, he says it needs to be time-bound. It needs to be time-bound. And I think when I talk about goals, probably the biggest thing that I focus on is that time component. Right? If you think about SMART goals, it needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable, achievable, realistic. The T comes at the very end. It's time-bound, but I think that's probably the very most important thing. Because if you don't put a time component on there, when is it going to happen? Is it today? Is it tomorrow? Is it in a decade? Give yourself that sense of urgency so that time component is important. When are you going to buy that first rental house? Think about that. And then what steps are you going to build or take to get there? Getting the education, creating those processes, building a team. I just mentioned the emails that I get from the Lifestyles Realty team that tell me some target numbers around returns. What are your investing criteria? That's part of those goals. What are your target returns, your geography, target property, level of rehab? These are all things you need to think about as you define those goals to become a successful real estate investor. Hey, we're going to head into a quick break. We will be right back.
Got questions? Call Lifestyles Unlimited at 855-497-4335. The Real Estate Investor Radio Show continues next.
Well, one thing it has meant for us, and we have to compliment you, you've given us our time back. And I say our time because we got married 33 years ago, and we got married in July. Do you know why? Well, that was before I met Lifestyles. I used to work for Ford Motor Company. And with Ford Motor Company, I was in the automotive division. They have shut down during July, the first 2 weeks of July. So
So
when
you
they
had to wait for a shutdown to get married?
Yes.
Yes, he actually
Whoa,
changed-
that's dedication there.
He made me change our wedding date. It was supposed to be June 15th, and I changed.
Wow, that's amazing.
So if I had been in lifestyle, I could have gotten married when I wanted to.
And the ring would have been bigger.
Ready to get your time back like Vivian and Cornell? Register for the free online workshop at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Creating the lifestyle you've always wanted. You're hearing Lifestyles Unlimited's Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Andy Webb. If you have any questions, you can email me at askandy@luinc.com. Again, that is askandy@luinc.com. I do answer those personally. I do receive those from you directly, so I'm happy to take your questions, and we'll get some of those on air. I do like to bring those on air from time to time as well. Now, today we're talking discipline. We talked last week about tax time, and there's a certain level of discipline, I feel, that goes into successfully getting your taxes done, even though I use a CPA. And discipline is critical for you as you go down the path to become a real estate investor. And we're leaning on an article here. Again, this appeared in Forbes. This has been a couple years ago. This is published by who? A Navy SEAL, somebody that naturally knows about this. Brent Gleason is his name. And he's got 9 points, nine practices, I guess, 9 things to do to help you build that discipline, because it is a skill. It is something you can develop. So work on that. You're going to work on your education. You're going to learn about all the things that go into renovation. You're going to learn about the processes of buying a house, how financing works, all that stuff. Those are things that you're going to develop. Develop this skill for discipline right alongside that. And we were just talking about the importance, number 3 on his nine steps here is setting goals. And not just setting goals, but having an execution plan. And I just want to wrap that one up first and foremost here. And I can just say it simply that having a clear direction is paramount, because if you don't know where you're going, how will you get there? Now, I will say how a lot of people have gotten there, and really I can't tell you how often I've heard people thank Lifestyles Unlimited and thank Del Walmsley and thank the mentors for the roadmap to get them to financial freedom, because they have gotten there. And if you're not sure how to do that, if you're not sure how to set goals, right? If you're not sure how to determine the plan, just keep that in mind. Lifestyles Unlimited does have a roadmap for you. Over 30 years as an organization, over 30 years helping people achieve their financial freedom, over 50,000 members. You don't have to figure out the path on your own. You don't have to do it alone. We have the roadmap. We lay out good processes, best practices, so that you can be a good operator. And again, that goes back to knowing your strengths and weaknesses and having good processes in place to help guide you past those weaknesses and play to your strengths. Very important. Number 4, he says, and I like this, practice daily diligence. In the first segment, I mentioned a quote I'd heard or seen on social media from a fellow passive investor, and he is practicing discipline with respect to what he does as a passive investor. And I want to underscore again that word practice to my earlier point. It is a skill. You're not born with self-discipline. You have to learn that. If we could all just kick back and lounge around and everything fell in our lap, would we do that? Probably so. A lot of us. So we've got to learn this discipline. We've got this skill, which is discipline. It must, and this is underscored here. I underscored this in the article. It must become habitual. Well, how do you make something a habit? You do that by practicing. If your goal is to buy your first rental house, what can you do? Ask yourself, what can I do to get closer to that goal? Well, one thing you can do every day. And here the idea is creating discipline, and creating discipline through practice. And practice means doing something with repetition. Repetition is the mother of all learning, right? So you've got to practice. Do this thing over. Set some time. And if you're looking for that single family rental house, that first one, plan to review N or X, whatever, fill in the blank, 10, let's say 10 properties, 10 houses every day. Now, how do I get those leads? What am I reviewing? That's a different discussion. That comes from your networking. That comes from the realty team, the realtors, the wholesalers out there. But plan on reviewing X number of properties every day. Do it at the same time, ideally. And we just talked about investing criteria. Once you figure out what that is as part of your goals, well, now you search for that opportunity. And if you do that every day, I promise you, if you do that every day, you will find one eventually. You absolutely will. You can bet on it. Similar conversation I had with one of the multifamily mentors as my wife and I were looking at small multifamily as independent owners, Alex Clark. He's been on the show. He sets very strict routines around his processes as an investor. And he and I talked about that. We talked about that, in fact, on the show. Reaching out to multifamily brokers, for example. He does the same thing every Monday, every Thursday, every Friday. He has a set schedule. For him, it has become routine. So for you to develop that routine, schedule some time on your calendar for whatever those items are that you're trying to put into regular practice. That will help you build that skill. That will help you become more disciplined. And that ties actually to the next point, which is step number 5 per Mr. Gleason here. Create new habits and rituals. That's essentially what we're doing. We're practicing daily diligence, doing these things daily to create a new habit and to create a new ritual. How long, if you do any kind of search online, how long does it take to form a habit? I've seen numerous replies. 21 days comes up quite a lot. What is that, 3 weeks? 66 days comes up quite a lot as the average. That's quite a bit longer. I've seen even longer, 254 days. Interesting number, but somewhere in there. It's going to take you some time to form a habit. But regardless, whatever that number is, consistency is key. Applying what you're doing daily, consistently. And here too, in order to maintain that consistency, it may be helpful for you to schedule it with yourself. I have a calendar. I keep it in Excel. I put these things on my calendar daily. So I see it and I do it. See it and do it. I've got the time. It's set aside. So keep those things in mind and ask yourself again, what can you do now to create those new habits and rituals? Again, thinking about the soon-to-be single-family rental investor, we talked about scheduling time to review the numbers on opportunities. Maybe that's your morning coffee review, right? Going back to processes, I think it's very important to have processes in place. Have you laid those out? Well, now is the time to start practicing those. Start practicing those. So that's number 5. Number 6, this is very much a mindset thing. And he puts it as change your perception about willpower. Again, the article is devoted to cultivating self-discipline. And simply put, don't sell yourself short when it comes to having willpower. Okay, now we're moving on. Number 7 is give yourself a backup plan. That is not a back door. That is not an exit door. That is not an out. It does not mean assuming that you're going to fail in that goal that you're setting and working towards, or that you're just going to bail on it, right? Let's say your plan is to buy rental houses in your town. Well, go back to that investing criteria that we discussed. You know what your returns need to be, what that property looks like, and you've been consistent. You've been practicing daily diligence, but you just can't find any houses in your market where the numbers work. What could your backup plan be? Well, first of all, I'd closely review that market, talk to other investors, and figure out, does it actually make sense to invest in that market? It may not. It may not. There are places on the coast where I would never invest. It doesn't make sense. There are other high-dollar markets where it doesn't make sense. So what's your backup plan? You shift markets. Get into other states, possibly. Your market just may not make sense. Now, I know a lot of people will think invest out of state, but that's scary. You can do it. Just find someone that can help you when it comes to investing at a distance. And that takes me to the next point. Number 8, find trusted coaches or mentors. Find a mentor in the real estate space where you are. Somebody that's had success, and somebody that, as well, I would say, shown that they can convey how to do the things that they're doing. Not everybody's good at communicating. Not everybody communicates well. In that event, I would tell you Lifestyles Unlimited does communicate well. We've got 30 years and more of experience in doing that very thing as an education and mentoring group. So if that's at Lifestyles Unlimited, great. Come join us. That would be wonderful. But if you need to find somebody else in your area, do that. Please do that, because having a mentor by your side, it's paramount. It's very, very important. I can look back 10 years. I don't think I would have had the success I've had without the mentors that helped us very, very early on in the process. And if you want to learn more about what we do at Lifestyles Unlimited, go to lifestylesunlimited.com. There's a button there to register for the free workshop. It's an hour and a half of your time, done virtually, so you can do that. Doesn't matter, again, if you're in Texas or out of state, wherever you are, you can attend that workshop and learn more. Okay, but finding a coach, finding a mentor, very, very important. It really is. And finally, again, we're talking through nine ways to build that discipline. Finally, number 9, forgive yourself and move forward. All right. If you miss, right, you set those goals. We talked about goals early on. Point number 3, you've been practicing that daily diligence. You've built those new habits. You've got those rituals. You're feeling good, but you miss those goals. Well, keep moving. Don't dwell on it. Don't let it stop you from continuing forward. Just don't throw in the towel, okay? Even if you don't hit every one of your goals in a given year, understand that's okay. You know, if you hit some, that's good. Good for you. You know, again, I mentioned Mike Harrison's show on goals that he did, I don't know, it was a few weeks ago. I know I was driving down Interstate 35, sitting in traffic listening to him, and I remember he said he sets a ton of goals. And he acknowledged then, does he hit them all? No, he doesn't. And that's perfectly okay, because the goals he does hit keep him moving forward. And I know with that speed, with that momentum, he will keep moving forward. So he achieves some, he and his family, and they continue to build. So for you, the message is review. You've missed those goals, forgive yourself, okay? You're not out of the game. Review what happened, revise those goals as needed, reset and relaunch into the new year, into the new month, into the new quarter, whatever it is that's coming up. Opportunity is still out there. It's out there. And I bet at this point, with what you did achieve, you did see some improvements. You are closer to that goal. If you've been listening to the steps here we've been talking about, you've become more disciplined. And that's going to continue to feed into your success going forward. Continue to build on that. May not be 100% all at once. Now, those are 9 ways from the Navy SEAL. I want to add a couple of other things that are important to real estate investors. Mentor, we talked about that. Network, we've mentioned that throughout. It's hugely important to have that network as a thing to rally around, right? Your friends that you build in this space that are doing what you do, hearing their successes will help feed yours. And you'll take inspiration. Going to the Lifestyles Unlimited case study does that very thing for me. Yeah, but Andy, I'm not in Texas. You can do those online. Again, learn more when you go to our website, lifestylesunlimited.com. And follow us on Facebook, by the way. I'd forgotten about a case study down in Houston the other night and got scrolling through social media, and boom, I saw someone, David Fisher, down there talking. I said, wait, I forgot. Logged on straight there on my phone and learned a lot. Saw a gentleman speak about his small multifamily that he took on as an independent rental owner. Took away inspiration. So mentor and network, hugely important. And I would go a step further. From within that network that you build around you, if you really want to kick this discipline into overdrive, find an accountability partner. The Navy SEAL didn't really speak to that here, but somebody that you're close to that you can really go back to, maybe on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, compare notes. Did you do what you said you're going to do? Did you not? Why not? Accountability partner. They'll hold you to it. So just to circle back and summarize the 9 things you can do to build that discipline. Number 1, know your strengths and weaknesses. Number 2, remove temptation, a la weakness. Number 3, set clear goals and have an execution plan around those. Number 4, practice. Daily diligence. Number 5, create new habits and rituals. Number 6, change your perception about your willpower and what you can do as an investor. Give yourself a backup plan. Number 7, find a mentor. And forgive yourself if you don't hit every single one of your goals. It's okay. Keep moving forward, and I know you will, and you'll find that financial freedom. I thank you for listening today. Remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle.
The information and opinions you hear on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.